Hello, everyone, and welcome to webinar number 2 in this 6-part series on the value proposition. Today, we are talking about revising your job description and developing a performance evaluation that matches that job description. This is one of those parts that is very important as we go forward. Joining us today, as always, is Patrick Seether, President and CEO of Golf Business Network. Patrick, how are you?
Doing great, Bob. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Patrick.
So, Bob, tell me when you're leading into this. Tell me, how over the time that you were doing this, how did you develop all this information? Where did it all come from?
Okay, so as we stated before, a lot of this has come through our real-world experience. These two particular job description and performance evaluation came from working with a specific golf professional on their job description and developing a performance evaluation for another one that's then been transferred and used in all of our, whenever we've worked with a club on hiring a golf professional, these have become, part and parcel of what we do, because it's critically important in today's world to have a job description that matches what you're doing. And the real purpose of a job description as we launch into this is you need a system for mutually agreeing upon and establishing your responsibilities for each facet of the golf operation. So what does that really mean? That really means that unless you sit down and say, this is what you're responsible for and this is what the club's responsible for, how are you ever going to have, a mutual agreement, and how are your responsibilities going to be measured? Without being able to measure your responsibilities, how can you increase your value? How can you exceed their expectations? And part of this then makes it an easy conversation to mutually agree upon what successfully carrying out those responsibilities constitutes. I mean, it sounds fairly simple, and this is very simple. And, Patrick's going to send out the templates, this week. They're posted on the website. But realistically, it's all about helping everybody understand what it is that, is success in carrying out the responsibilities. We've talked a lot in the past about exceeding members' expectations. The only way to exceed members' expectations is by knowing what the expectation level is, okay? The other thing that the job description does is it establishes reporting channels. Who do you report to on everything that goes on in the golf operation? So are you is the only point of reporting to the general manager? Is the only point of reporting to the golf chairman, or are there combinations there of both? And in a lot of clubs today, there are combinations of both. The tournament program's going through the golf chairman, and the budgets and those types of things are going through the general manager. So it's critically important to establish the reporting channels. And the job description makes it very easy to do this. You're not asking to sit down and go through, who do I report to on this and who do I report to on this? It's simply matter of fact as you go through setting up your job description. You report to this person, that person. It could all be one, or it could be many different ones. It also establishes your ability to participate in section and national events. Not everybody plays all the time, but people that do play and want to participate in section events or want to participate in pro-ams, you need to get this up front so that you don't run into a situation which I've heard all too often lately is that, we didn't know you were going to play in this many events, or we didn't know you were going to go to this many pro-ams during the off season. And, also in that, what are the parameters by which you should be taking somebody, somebody to an event? Is there a formula that you need to go through to inviting members to, pro-ams? So the real purpose is just to put everybody on the same page as to what are the expectation levels. And realistically, the elements of a job description are quite simple. There's your retail operation. So what's entailed there? If you own the retail operation, it's obviously a lot less detail in there than if you don't own the retail operation. If the club owns the retail operation, then you need some definition in here. What are the expectation levels from a profit margin, or gross profit, net profit, staffing sizes, all of those things. So if you don't own the golf shop, this becomes a little bit more. Staffing, agreeing on what the proper staffing levels are going to be. What is your role in counseling to the club members? What are your responsibilities relative to the golf course? So these are the main elements to a job description, and they're all laid out in the template in the job description, and you can use it. It becomes very easy because you can strike things out, you can add things, but these are the elements. The instructional report. How much are you supposed to teach? How much is your staff supposed to teach? What are the hours that they can teach? All of those kind of things, and what are your responsibilities in the community industry? So these are the elements that go into a proper job description. And having a conversation on a job description is a great thing to do because it's another positive manner in which you're sitting down, talking about the operation and defining expectations. And as you're going to see, as we're doing this and leading up to negotiating a new contract or getting additional benefits, the more conversations that you can have with club leaders that are in a non-threatening manner, that allow you to talk about the things that are, important and establish your own criteria, then that's a win-win for everybody. And it has more, it allows you to have more positive conversations and conversations where they're understanding what you do and how you do it, which helps you when it comes time for that last part, which is obviously negotiating a new contract or negotiating a raise or whatever benefits that you want. So the job description is all about establishing your benchmarks, the benchmarks for how you're going to be evaluated. So if you go through the whole process of developing a job description, why wouldn't you also put a template for an evaluation behind it? And I can't tell you the amount of times that I see situations where, they say a mutually agreed upon performance. And I'll ask the golf professional, is there criteria set down? And this will be in somebody's contract, which is, even worse. No, nothing's been talked about. So, and quite frankly, part of the problem has nothing to do with golf pros or our industry. The problem has to do, most club leaders have absolutely no idea how to properly evaluate the golf professional. So your job is to help them understand how to evaluate you. And you want to be evaluated, fairly. That's all you're asking for, is a fair evaluation of your performance. But the only way you can have a fair evaluation of your performance is if you establish an objective procedure that can be carried over from one leadership regime to the next. This is critical, okay? The system needs to be agreed upon that continues. There can be tweaks in it and things like that, but it shouldn't be allowed to be changed from one leadership regime to the next. And most times when you see the template, it won't be changed from one to the next. And then it also allows you to know before the season starts how you will be evaluated. The worst that can happen is it's mutually agreed upon. Nobody has a conversation before the season starts. You sit down at the end of the season and you give this great glowing report about how you accomplished all of the objectives that you set out to accomplish. And the person evaluating comes back and says, well, I thought we had this objective, this objective, this objective, which you didn't even know about. So if you don't know before the season starts, you're opening yourself for an element of surprise at the end. So as much as you can put up front here, you're better off. And these just mirror, and the template will show you, there's a lot of it is just checkoffs, 1 to 4. How did you do? General attributes of you, general attributes of the tournament program, course controls, member wishes, they all match each other. And it allows them to just go through and fairly evaluate, your performance. It makes it much easier for whoever's on the other side, because what they'll wind up having to do is they'll wind up having to go ask questions of other people that were responsible for it. So it's a very simple, matter-of-fact process that you'll see as you do these things. But I can't tell you how important it is to have a job description and a performance evaluation. Even if you only use the 2 templates as a basis to get started, anything is better than nothing. Because as I say, when people are going through a job search or job interview and you're giving information to a selection committee, if you leave them to guess, they're going to guess wrong. And so if you leave them the chance of how you can be evaluated, odds are, you're going to be wrong. And all this does is it allows you, even if all you have is a job description, that's just as important because it will set the tone. If you go back here, it'll set the tone for all of these areas, and then you can judge those fairly easily. The evaluation is done to make it easier for them to do the evaluation, and it matches all of these things. So
I think, Bob, I just want to say, I'm sorry to, I just want to interject there, that there could be however many board members you have, or multiply that by however many members you have, and you have that many. If you don't have a job description and then the evaluation, you've got that many different perceptions of what it is that you're doing, and then you've got all those different things. So, I mean, I think for me, I think about it in terms of not leaving it up to them to decide what your job description is or how they're going to evaluate you. So I think it's really important for the golf professional to define that so they don't leave it up to somebody to do that for them. I think the members will do that unless you put it down on paper, right?
Yeah, Patrick, that's a good point, and I think it ties into, if you've already listened to part one, when we talk about the totality of the process and doing this, you have to people's perception is their reality. So you have to change that perception, and there's no question that these are just part and parcel of the bigger picture, but every one of them becomes important. And having the job description, yes, 100% helps you start to put the perception in the right vein, because what winds up happening most times when club leaders start seeing a golf professional's job description, they start going, wow, I didn't realize they had that many things to do, or they were responsible for that many areas. And that's a positive. So yes, that's a great question. And I think all of this will feed into what we'll talk about in 2 weeks and as we continue down. But you're starting to begin to hopefully see that it's all one big process that goes on over 6 to 12 months to put all of the seeds in place that then at the end gets you in that position where you've maximized your value. And that's all you can do.
Well said.
Patrick, do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's great, Bob. I think this is really valuable for all the club professionals that are going to be watching this. So appreciate you doing that.
You got it. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with part 3.
Great. Thanks again.
You got it.